Hello, assalamu alaikum everybody. Hope you're all safe, sound, and healthy. And we need to seriously talk about what I've kept on and on saying regarding the army, regarding the fact that I'm sorry, but there is no other way to correct or atone or redeem for any of the things that the Pakistani army has been doing, because as I've always said, right from the start, we have always had a traitor within the army. Right from the start, it has always been the army that has worked with foreign anti-state elements in order to assassinate our leaders, in order to disrupt our democratic system, in order to try to turn our country into another slave or colonized state. This is a fact. Another thing, the reason why I keep on and on disagreeing with people who always try to say, no, the army as an entity is not our enemy, it's just a few people above them. No. Because let me again remind you that when you train in the army, there is a hierarchy, right? In the police force, in the army, in the intelligence, there is always a hierarchy. You have a semi militarized system in the police force, like it or not, and you have a semi militarized system in intelligence agencies, like it or not. Despite the fact that some of those agencies are clearly civilian agencies and they may work on a superficial level, you might see that they work completely differently from a military intelligence agency. But essentially, the whole system of hierarchy is there, it exists in any and all bodies or organizations that have anything to do with security, with law enforcement, with intelligence. Okay, let's separate the civilian intelligence bureaus. If you remember the IB, which now many people are talking about, and I'm glad that many people are making people more and more aware of the essence, the importance of IB, of how it was actually the largest, the biggest, the most powerful, the most important intelligence bureau in Pakistan before the ISI sort of shoved it to the side, and not in a very ethical way. And the ISI, which was essentially the military intelligence wing or the military intelligence agency that was supposed to be restricted to apolitical, more to do with counterintelligence, intelligence, and surveillance, but it was supposed to be apolitical. Now, the problem is that the ISI made the very old mistake. I'm saying old because this is a mistake that very conveniently seems to happen with all the military intel, you know, bureaus or agencies in especially the post colonial world, the colonies, the former colonies of the Europeans. If you notice, they are prone to having a military intelligence wing that is now very politically active. And that is how you need to understand that Pakistan, as I keep on and on saying, is just one of those many formerly colonized countries in which is essentially the traitors, the fifth columnists, to do their bidding were placed within the military. And then in that military, obviously, they utilize the intelligence wing, obviously. So the ISI became more and more political, just as how you might note that in other post colonial countries, you will find that their military intelligence agencies are very politically active and they are politically involved, which is against the constitution. And this is something that the British, the Italians, the French, the Portuguese, the Americans did not allow. Actually, no, the Americans, I'll come to the Americans. So the European countries that were colonizers, notice how they did not allow their military intelligence to be in any way involved in their affairs, in their political affairs, in their political system. But how very, very conveniently the exact opposite has happened or is being done to all the countries, including America. Yes. Yes. And that is why I very quickly removed America from that original list, because I remembered that I have been obviously screaming blue murder about how America is also not exactly a sovereign state. It too is still inherently a colony. So it is still one of those post colonial countries that are doing the bidding. Their military intelligence is, in fact, yes, involved. Yes, to a large extent, people will argue that no, they are not involved politically, but yes, they are. For example, if you look at even, okay, forget the military for a moment and just look at the problem of jurisdiction between the CIA and the FBI. Now, although there's supposed to be a clear distinction of jurisdiction where the CIA is concerned, and which is very similar to the actually ISI, okay, in that they are supposed to take care of external intelligence activities, and they have no jurisdiction within the country. But you will note that the CIA has actually indeed been meddling, they have been meddling with the internal political affairs of the American government, and that is because they are linked to the establishment. Okay, so I'm not going to go too far into that because I don't give a damn about them at the moment. In fact, never did. So, coming back to our army, keeping all of that in mind, you need to understand why I keep on saying that due to the what is one of the laws or the rules within the military, if you remember when you train in the military as cadets, what are you always taught by your superiors? You are taught that if one of you makes a mistake, the whole group has to be punished, right? So one person's mistake is the whole group's mistake. Why? Because you're supposed to work as one entity, as parts of one body. That is the whole idea in a military organization. When you have that in mind, and then keeping again the same clause in mind, you see the hierarchy clause where a superior officer is giving orders, the cadets, the soldiers, the generals, the lieutenant generals, the commanders, the commander in chiefs, whoever they are, whoever come under the chief of army staff, they are bound to listen to the orders. Although, again, this is where the Islamic law comes, that if any order that is given is detrimental to humanity, it should not be accepted, it should not be followed. And that is why I keep on and on saying that in the past, actually, people in the military seem to have more spine, more backbone, in that they would actually rebel or have a mutiny against their superior officer if he ordered them to do something that was wrong, which you do not see now. So, like for example, if you look at the IDF, okay, one may argue that they are basically essentially just psychopaths, and as soon as they were screened for psychopathy, they were put into the IDF, regardless of the profession they belong to. Okay, but again, there is a streamline within that IDF as well. You will see that streamline within the PLO as well. So why are you making excuses by saying that no, in the Pakistan army, which is obviously a proper organized army, it's an actual official military body and a huge one, how can you say that they are right to make the excuse that they're following orders? When you get sentenced for war crimes, people who follow the orders of their superior officers are also punished if you follow the Islamic law, which again I'll remind you, the whole world is actually following the Islamic law, because there were no such laws before that, and it was the Islamic system, the Islamic law, that brought about these laws about how to deal with crimes against humanity. And that is how the international courts, when they set up, they used the Islamic jurisprudence, the Islamic law, again, just like how the American legal system and the British legal system, the European legal system are founded on the Islamic legal system. You need to remember that. this is again something I'll remind you that people who are in the legal field, people who are in the bureaucracy, people who are in politics, people who are deeply involved in state affairs are aware of it. People in the judiciary are aware of it. So here we are. This is why I will keep on and on disagreeing with people when they say, no, no, we need to destroy and dismantle the whole army and build it from scratch. Because the whole body, the army regards every soldier as part of one body. So the whole body needs to be destroyed. We cannot allow any part of that body to stay. Okay, the same is with the police. Superior officers, junior officers, I don't give a damn. They need to go, they need to be dismantled, they all need to be removed. We have to rebuild from scratch. I know that people are too impatient, that they feel that it's better to just start from top. But again, I'll remind you what I've been saying for a very damn long time, and that is, you cannot build a new foundation on rotten foundation. You have to first remove the original rotten foundation, rebuild a new foundation, then rebuild a house on top of that new foundation. You cannot redo a foundation without removing it completely, and you cannot rebuild a house on a rotten foundation. It just cannot be done. And as I said, that is a proven time and again. It is proven by, yet again, only recently, by the fact that Imran Khan tried to do that, thinking that it would take too long, although his original idea was definitely to rebuild the foundation, but he could see that it would take too long, so he wanted to get whatever he could get done quickly within a short span of time, and then go back to digging the foundation. But you see, again, as it is proved, it cannot be done that way, because we do not have that kind of time, and we do not have that kind of a society. And so it's a chicken and an egg sort of a thing, in a way, if you put it that way. But still, yeah, there is, if you want 100% long term, a very, very long term plan, in which you know that for at least a century or two, your country could maintain its sovereignty. This is something that needs to be done, because this was something that was hijacked when Quaid-e-Azam, the founder of Pakistan, and his sister and their fellow comrades who worked together to make this country, when they were making the system, they were targeted by the British planted traitors within the army again. So you see, you have to dismantle the army. There is no other way. And this is something that I've said again and again, that this myth, that the army and the people are one and all, it just cannot last, not after what's been done and what was done in the past. If you keep on and on looking back at the past, you cannot erase it, especially if you haven't learned from your mistakes, even though you pretend that you have. So yeah, when people think that they were probably the first ones to realize that General Bajwa, is leading the country into chaos and all. But to be honest, actually, I think when they claim to have realized it, for example, in March 2022 or whatever, to be honest, I would say that this, yes, maybe, they may think that they were the first to point it out to the people, but I am one of those people who can say for sure that I actually know people who had already found and realized that the culprit behind it all was Bajwa, even before the journalists and the analysts and all spoke out about it. Yeah, and that was my own father, I remember. And that actually, the reason I remember it is because I'm hardly ever wrong in my prediction, and I'm hardly ever wrong in sussing people out. So when I am wrong, I keep it in mind so that I can learn from it. And I remember that my father had started saying that, Bajwa is the one who's actually backstabbing Imran Khan, and he's the one who's, detrimental, and he's the one who's causing damage, and he is betraying Imran Khan. And I remember that I was like, no, I don't think so. Because, I mean, according to all the narratives, he was supposed to be, acting as Imran Khan's right hand man, helping him clean up the mess and helping him resecuring the country. And there was a retired major, a friend of ours, a friend of my dad's. And the retired major was also, he was like, no, I don't think Bajwa is betraying Imran Khan. Then my dad's like, no, you'll see, it's Bajwa who's betraying Imran Khan. And see, at the end, when Imran Khan was finally removed, then everybody started saying, oh, it's Bajwa that backstabbed Imran Khan. But you see, my father had realized it way before that, when it had just started, when the whole story had just started to unfold, as in when it was literally happening in front of our eyes, that he got the cipher, and then he was talking about the whole, American thing, and how how there was interference, and then how now people were suddenly deciding to, organize a vote of no confidence against Imran Khan. That was the time, when my father had already sussed the situation out and said, Bajwa is the one. He's the culprit. He is the backstabber, and he is betraying Imran Khan. He will betray him. And that's exactly what, as we all know now, that's exactly what happened. So, again, I would say that then that would remind you that we really did again fall for some of that narrative, you know, of how Bajwa was creating this false narrative about how he was with the people of Pakistan and he was with Imran Khan and he was going to help us, reach our goals of cleaning all the shit up and, restructuring ourselves, restructuring our country back to being a properly sovereign state. So yeah, I mean, I hear now a lot of analysts who are saying that, on so and so date, we just said that Bajwa was behind it. Yeah, but you see, and yes, kudos to you. I'm sure. I'm very happy that you actually said it, because obviously my father was not a journalist, so he wouldn't go out and tell people that, Bajwa was behind it. So I'm glad for those journalists and analysts who did start telling the people when they sussed it all out. But what I'm trying to say is that there were many people like my father who, probably sitting in their homes, could read the whole situation, and they were aware of the fact that, yeah, there's a backstabber right there in the army right now as we speak. So what I'm trying to say is people are not fools, right? This is proof that people are not fools, that people literally, and this is, where there are a very few things in which, Pakistanis, they mildly surprise me in a good way, that the fact that, despite the fact that they're such cowardly, hypocritical morons, but they have this keen common sense when it comes to these things, where they just know. So, I mean, if you look at history, throughout history, every time a leader was slandered by the opposition, notice that the people actually moved more and more towards that leader. Where it was Qaid Azam Muhammad Ali Jinnah, when his opponents tried to, create a rift about him, saying that why is he, he's trying to divide India, he's trying to do this, he's trying, and when they tried to slander his reputation afterwards, after Pakistan was made, people did not give two hoots about it. Not before Pakistan was made and not after Pakistan was made. They stuck with Qaid Azam because they knew that he was a man of integrity. Similarly, when the armies tried to slander Fatma Jinnah, the mother of our nation, the people went against the army, which is why the army, the then chief of army, killed the lady, right? But again, now here's where I come back to the things that are wrong with our people, is that if that time the people, instead of just doing a heavy protest against Ayub, if that time they had just killed him, lynched him, you know, if they had just drawn and quartered him, if they had just destroyed him, it would have served as an example for the military now. But you see what the military and what Nawaz Sharif and his goons and what all these parasites, these fifth columnists, Zardari, and all these criminals and rapists and smugglers that the Americans have chosen, the Americans and the British, that they have chosen to sit upon our heads. All these criminals and rapists and smugglers, these fifth columnists, these gutter snipes, they also keep on observing the fact that Pakistanis, you can do whatever you want to with them. You can do whatever you want to them, and they will never move a muscle. And that is exactly what I have been saying for such a long time, that this is exactly what is wrong with our people. They are such hypocrites, and they are so useless when it comes to this, that they have never stood up and actually fought for anything. Never. So even now, again, I would say the rallies and the protests, they're fine, but they are not what are going to get the job done. What's going to get the job done is lynch the bastards. Seriously, there is no other way but a mob way. You need a mob revolution. This is something I said that time when they had toppled Imran Khan. Even that time, I said that if all the people worked together in military sync, and if they rounded up the governor, if they rounded up the Nawaz Sharif House, Zardari House, the GHQ, the judges, if they had rounded up all their homes at this exact same time, they would have brought them down to their knees. But the problem is that our people just do not have that unity in them or that military precision in them, which is so weird, because you talk about us having all this technology, all this modern means of, we're a global village and blah blah blah, and we cannot do this when in the primitive world people were actually able to do that. When civilians rebelled against their kings, they were literally able, practically able to do that. They, with military precision, would surround the enemy, all the enemies, all the camps, and they would kill them off. And yet today, with all the modern technology, with all the communication systems going on, we couldn't do that. Seriously. Why? Because we as a society are a very, very selfish society. And that is again why I say that, yes, in that sense, if you look at it, these people, they truly represent the people of Pakistan, and their dishonesty and their corruption and their selfishness, in their egos, in their narcissism, in everything being all about them. Because that is exactly the problem with the people of Pakistan. They may have that common sense, never to be swayed by the false narratives of the government. They may have that insight, never to be brainwashed. Yes, Pakistanis really do not get brainwashed, unlike the Americans, the British, the French, the Europeans. Their mass are not even aware of the fact that they've been drinking the Kool-Aid right from the start. They think they have free minds and that they are independent and they know everything, but they know jack shit. And this is, you can see it, how easy it is for their governments to just manipulate them. And then look at Pakistan. Every time the government tries to manipulate the people are like, F you, screw you, we don't have time for this. Seriously. How many times did America try, with the help of the fifth columnists, to create civil rifts amongst the people, be it Shia Sunni, be it Wahhabi, be it anybody, be it Ahmadis. How many times did they try to create a situation where they could ultimately lead to a civil war? And when has Pakistan ever had a civil war? 0 times. When has Pakistan ever had a mob revolution? 0 times. I mean, we're just so not bothered. We're just such lazy asses that, we're just, as long as we can live our lives getting whatever it is that we want, we're okay. To hell with everybody else. And that is exactly what is wrong with us too. That is exactly why nobody can get us to actually get off our asses and, go towards a conflict. But that is also why people can then suffocate us and kill us and put us in our graves without us rising to a conflict. And this is the dilemma that I keep on and on mentioning, that we need to look into. you know this is what we really need to understand. First of all, we need to learn to do the drastic, most important things. We need to recreate the whole country, pretend that the country was made today. Okay, dismantle the law enforcement agencies completely, rebuild them from scratch. I'm telling you, there is no other way. And right now, we need to literally have a mob revolution here. We need to synchronize ourselves with each other. And as a nation, we need to just get out and cripple them simultaneously, all together at the same time. That is how things will work. I'm sorry, but there is no other way. No peaceful rally is going to cut it. Well, this is me signing out. Khuda Hafiz.